Today's episode has been brought to you by
Schedulicity.
Welcome to episode 58 of the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast with today's guest, Julie Zuzak. Julie is a business coach and founder of the Corporate Yogi. She's someone who truly believes that being an entrepreneur is the most intense form of personal development. So that's on her website, and you can hear it as we're talking today in this interview. Thanks for being here. It is amazing to have you here. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. I'm a mother of three, a yoga teacher, and a consultant for yoga teachers who want to create a sustainable yoga business that serves them and their community. Over the years in teacher trainings and through the consultation work that I do with yoga teachers, I keep getting this message that yoga teachers are feeling disconnected and alone in the wilderness of yoga entrepreneurship. I really understand this feeling. It's actually what sparked this podcast. So every week we meet up here. This is a place where you can feel supported and connected between the classes, workshops, and trainings that you are teaching or attending. Together, we hear from yoga teachers and other professionals who share information, ideas, stories, and actionable steps. How is your day going, connected yoga teachers? For me, I feel like I've been in about 4 days of procrastination leading up to getting this episode ready to you, and for no reason. I'm super excited. Julie has some amazing stuff today. I'm not sure what it is. It's just something that's going on in my life. And I just sat down to the microphone and thought, you know what? I just need to stop worrying about getting everything perfect and sit down and do it. So I'm not sure if you're having a moment like that. It's Easter Monday here in Canada. Do you have a holiday today? What are you up to today? I'm super grateful that you've tuned in to be here and listen today. I'm also excited to introduce you to Julie and to dig into how we can build our confidence to promote and market our amazing yoga offerings. So this is one thing that I know well as a yoga teacher, and I see it in a lot of the teachers that I work with, that confidence is really a thing that sometimes holds us back. Also is self-promotion and marketing ourselves. Julie is a fellow Canadian who's from Toronto, Ontario, which is about a 3-hour drive from where I live. I first got to know Julie through her podcast, and I was following some of what she was sharing online. And then I just really felt drawn to reaching out and asking her to share with us on the podcast today a little bit more about self-promotion and confidence building. If you are wanting to meet up in person with fellow connected yoga teachers, one thing that is coming up soon is in June of 2018. So it's June 22nd, 23rd, 24th. A bunch of us connected yoga teachers are going to meet up at the Accessible Yoga Conference in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We're talking about meeting up possibly on the Saturday evening. Maybe it's dinner. We're not sure yet. We're still confirming details of when it is and where it is. But if you'd like to stay in the loop for that, you can join our newsletter or join our Facebook group. So to find either one of those, go to theconnectedyogateacher.com and you'll see the join button on the homepage for our Facebook group. And then you can also see where you can sign up for our newsletter. Another place where I know some of our connected yoga teachers are getting together is the Toronto Yoga Show. It's April 12th to the 15th, 2018, also in Toronto, Ontario. I unfortunately cannot attend this year. I do plan on attending next year, and it'd be great to see some of your faces there. But I know that there's a fantastic group, and Julie, who we hear from today, will be at the Toronto Yoga Show. So it'd be fun to see you connect with her after you hear her on the podcast or connect up with other yoga teachers. And if you are doing something in your area with other connected yoga teachers, I would love to hear about it. I'd love to see a photo, even if it's just getting together for a tea visit with a fellow yoga teacher in your community. Tag me in that, send me an email, or post it on social media and say that you're getting together and connecting with other connected yoga teachers. I have to send a big thanks out to Barb, Penny, and Sue, who invited me to go to my very first yoga conference last year. And I have to say, I got a little bit hooked on it. I just feel like it was just fun to visit with other yoga teachers, and I'm not sure why I hesitated before. And so I'm really looking forward to doing that. The reason why I can't go to the Toronto Yoga Show this year is because I'm hosting Mama Nurture RPYT, the prenatal yoga teacher training in Meaford, Ontario. We have just 2 spots in that. My guess is even when this podcast goes out, we kind of have those full. But if you want to check, you can go to mamanurture.ca. So that's MAMA nurture.ca, and you can look at we even have an online training on there, lots of resources for you. We're adding to the website as well, and we're making some plans for 2019 training. So some of you might remember that I was talking on the podcast about using my own advice to build awareness of this teacher training. So I was feeling a few months back that registration was a little bit slow. And I'm happy to report that it really worked out. So as I was saying, we only have 2 spaces left in the training, and it's an amazing group that's gathering together for this. So I'll share the 2 things that I did. One was I did this sticky note registration trick that I like to use. So that's basically I take 2 large pieces of paper and put sticky notes on them with everyone's name. I'm actually looking at it right now as I talk to you. Everyone's name is on there that has registered, but then also everyone who sort of inquires about it, or even if I think, you know what, that person has asked me questions before about prenatal yoga, their name will go on there. If they are really liking and commenting on our stuff on our Facebook page, then also their name will go on there. If I feel like, you know, that's a person to follow up on. So I have this system where their name is written in marker if they're registered, in pen if they're just sitting on the fence, and in pencil if they're if it's just someone I've thought of and I'd like to reach out to them and ask them if they're interested in the training. So I put it where I can see it daily, and that really motivates me. Oh yeah, right, I need to check in with that person, or maybe to get more people signing up, then I need to send out another email today. And the second thing I did with this is I decided to do weekly videos, and I sent those out in weekly emails to our Mama Nurture newsletter list. And if you guys have been on our Mama Nurture newsletter list, you'll know that before we were kind of going, 1 or 2 months, maybe even 3 or 4 months would go by before we were sending out an email. And we really saw that you guys started to get more engaged when we started sending out weekly videos. So I also posted in the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group. I was wondering if my videos were professional enough. The lighting wasn't so great. I just did it in my kitchen, and I used Facebook Live, and then I was posting them on YouTube. And when I shared the videos, most people were just like, here are a couple of tweaks that you can make, but otherwise great content. And that's really, I want to let you know that that's really what people are caring about. So if you have hesitated to share videos in the past, I want to tell you that it's very effective, even if you feel like your videos are not perfect. So some days I was like, you know what, my hair looks crazy, or my outfit doesn't seem like the perfect yoga outfit. There are all kinds of things that happen in the brain, but I am telling you that people really appreciate just you sharing really great information and great content. Thank you to Chris Gott, who posted a review in iTunes. She says, yoga entrepreneurs and teachers, a must listen. Shannon and the entire Connected Yoga Teacher crew offer so much insight into what it takes to grow your yoga business/dream. These podcasts will help you discover pieces in puzzle that is your yoga business/goals you didn't even know were missing. Shannon has helped me to get organized, create a plan, given me insight and fresh ideas on where my yoga journey as a teacher and student needs to go. Thank you, Shannon and the Connected Yoga Teacher. Thank you so much, Chris. I have gotten to know Chris just through different courses that we've done, and mainly from her Instagram feed and her YouTube videos. So she's quite famous for doing this with her wiener dog. And I know, Chris, that you have some travel time in a van across the United States soon. So thanks for leaving the review, and I hope your travels are going well. If you haven't left a review in iTunes yet, I would be so happy if you do. I know it takes a little bit of time, but it really helps the podcast reach other people, and it really kind of boosts. It's like a one-sided conversation. I'm talking to you guys. I don't always hear back from you. And this is a quick way just to say, hey, I really like this about the podcast, or hey, I think you could improve this with the podcast. So for sure, reach out, leave a review. If you're wondering how to do that, you can just go to any of our episodes on our show notes page, or you can do that right from your podcast app. Before we dive in and meet Julie, let's hear from our sponsor, Schedulicity.
Hello, Connected Yoga teachers. This is Ren from Schedulicity with the hot tip of the week. Schedulicity features easy-to-use integration with social media. You can add our scheduling widget to your Facebook business page in 2 easy steps. This allows people to book with you and sign up for your class directly from that page. We also have marketing tools to allow you to spread the word to your social media accounts. With just a few clicks, you can set up a call to action inviting your Facebook friends and followers to visit your Schedulicity marketplace listing. Check it out and let Schedulicity help you stay as connected with your students online as you are in the classroom.
Thank you, Ren, and thank you, Schedulicity team. I love that I can add my Book Now button on my Facebook page, like you said, in just 2 easy steps. It makes it great for yoga teachers who don't want a website or don't yet have a website. It's super easy to create a Facebook page and get ready to schedule people. Alrighty, Connected Yoga teachers, let's figure out how we can look at confidence and self-promotion in a whole new way. Please welcome Julie Zuzak, who has more than 15 years of business experience in marketing and communications for technology companies and startups. She launched the Corporate Yogi in 2011, and she said that becoming an entrepreneur was the smartest and the hardest thing that she has ever done. Julie is very open and honest about how she thought that success would come quickly to her, but then she realized that she had to have time invested in a business just like everyone else. Julie is best known for her edgy podcast, Conscious Business with the Corporate Yogi, and she's known for not sugarcoating things. I like to turn to her episodes when I'm feeling like I want a bit of a boost, a cheerleader for my business, and some honest truth about really digging in and finding out how to pay the bills, make the profit. And also, I love that Julie adds in just this amazing fusion of Eastern and Western techniques that help the entrepreneurs that she's working with conquer fear and limiting beliefs that stand in the way of success. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast, Julie. It's amazing to have you here with us today.
Oh, thanks, Shannon. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited that we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about confidence and self-promotion. But before we get there, I'd like to just ask you kind of what your journey with yoga has been like.
Absolutely. Well, I think, like so many other teachers, my passion for yoga started as a student, and I was working full-time in corporate and was kind of starting to get bored with that career. And so, I'd been practicing yoga for about 12 years, and I just kind of decided to dip a toe and take teacher training, not with the intent of actually teaching as a career, but just, when we get into those places of our life where we're stagnant, we want to throw ourselves into something that we're really passionate about, and that often will lead to greater clarity on the next step in our career. So I dove in and did my very first teacher training. So that was about 2009, and I was actually living in the UK at the time. So I did it in London at a school called Teach Yoga. And so that was my very first teacher training that I did. And little did I know that would actually change my life and set me into this world of entrepreneurship.
That's amazing. I often hear you say on your own podcast, or it's on your website a lot, that you believe, and I really believe this too, that being an entrepreneur is a lot about self-growth. And so maybe that got you into it when you did your YTT.
Absolutely. It is. And it truly is. You're right. Being an entrepreneur is the most intense form of personal development that you'll ever go through. And, for anyone working in a job with a regular salary that they take home, personal growth is like a side dish in your life. It's optional. So you can dive in and really commit, or you can put it on the back burner and do it like later on or in a couple of years. But when you're actually running a business, the success of your business and your ability to financially support yourself really depends on your ability to step up and really lean into that discomfort to whether that's, find new clients or grow your business or do those things that you are a little bit resistant to. And so it just kind of puts you into that pressure cooker of doing all those things that you're really, really scared of.
And I get this because every day as an entrepreneur, I feel like I have to face something pretty big, or there are seasons where I'm like, wow, that's something brand new and I didn't know that I was going to be going there. So do you have any tips that you offer to yoga teachers on how to make that a little easier?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is a lot of the work that I do is really, this concept of conscious business is just a really, really simple and very important one. And so the simple fact, and any yoga lover will get this, if you can just be aware and conscious of what it is that you are going through, and this is very Eckhart Tolle, right? If you can just, and very Buddhist thinking, if you can observe what it is that you're going through, that simple act of making that conscious and aware will actually be a big step forward in making your journey so much easier. So, for example, as you just mentioned, and I laughed as you were saying it, every day there's something new that I have to learn or grow or do that is scary. And, it feels like there's always something. You're always turning a corner and finding that new hurdle to jump over. And so what I do with my clients is, I have this concept of a growth hangover. And so I tell them, when you are doing something new that is outside of your comfort zone, it takes extra amount of energy and courage to build up to be able to do it and to go through that, whether that's teaching in front of a big class or running a workshop or doing something that you've never done before, where there's self-doubt and insecurity and judgment. And so when you have that new activity, just be compassionate with yourself that after you're done it, you're going to need to take a little bit of a break. And so design your day and your schedule so that not every day is full of new activities. Have a good blend of things that will cause growth hangovers and then a nice blend of things that you can do quite easily that are in your comfort zone.
I really appreciate that because the example that comes to my mind is leading a yoga teacher training or a weekend workshop or something, and I always take the day after that off. And It's just kind of exactly what you said. I like how you called it a growth hangover. That's a great term.
It is just like, if you've had a little bit too much rich food, or, for those people who like to indulge in a little bit of wine or some other adult beverage, if you have too much, then the next day you are tired and you are lethargic, and it really has an impact. And it's the same thing as spending too much time outside of your comfort zone. It has an impact on your body. So you either need to, plan the next day ahead to relax, or the other tip I like to give people is to prepare in advance. So make sure you have a half day of downtime, or go to the spa, or do something really relaxing and get a massage the day before so that you've got that extra reserve of energy and you can really show up and be 100%.
Oh, that's such a good tip. So you had said that you mostly work with conscious business or conscious entrepreneurs. Can you describe what that is in your mind?
Mm-hmm. Well, we often talk about conscious business as, really being aware of the impact of your business on the environment and on your social community. And for me, it's like taking that couple steps back and saying, even before we focus on others, we have to get our relationship with ourselves right. And so for me, this comes back to my yoga journey, which is really the inspiration, the foundation of everything that I do. And, in the West, we often define yoga as union of mind, body, and spirit. But if you actually go back to the Sanskrit definition of yoga, it's really teaches us that yoga is actually the union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. So that's coming back to this simple concept of connection. And so if you can take and understand your relationship with everyone else around you as the foundation of everything that you do, then that allows you to have a different lens as to how how you approach everything. So if you have a colleague who drives you crazy at work or always triggers you, or you have a difficult relationship with your boss, we can't ever run away from that problem or that situation, because it's calling us forth to grow and learn in that situation. Because if you have a difficult boss, and I see this all the time, whether it's boss or a partner, romantic partner, this theme shows up a lot too in my clients, who causes you difficulty, we think we can, get rid of that relationship and move on to a new one. But quite often we take that pattern with us, because the pattern is a result of ourselves, not the other person, as much as we would like to point a finger and blame it all on them. So for me, conscious business is a concept of really being aware of who you are and focusing on personal growth, because that is the foundation of everything that we do. Relationships are everything. And so your business calls you forth to grow on a personal level and through your relationship.
Oh, this is good. I like how you wind in or kind of weave in this Eastern and Western philosophy together. Was it yoga that got you started with the Eastern philosophy side of things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to take a step back, it was even just the physical practice of yoga that really got me hooked. So I know you have a lot of yoga teachers listening. So I have done different styles of yoga. And my first training that I did was just a straight up hatha. But then my second style that I took was a Bikram hot yoga training that I did in LA. And so, for me, as much as I don't always align with everything that, goes on in that style of yoga, it was necessary for me to take that kind of intense style of yoga to really challenge me physically, so that, I had that very A-type personality years ago. And so yoga for me was just a physical practice. It was just exercise. And it was only kind of 4 years in where I started to actually go on that journey of personal growth and start to get into the philosophy. And I share that because I think there's a lot of people, whenever I tell that story, that resonate and sort of smile and go, yep, that was me too. We look back to whatever point it was. For me, it was my late 20s, where I know I was very ego driven, and all I cared in my career was about getting that next promotion and making more money. And so yoga was just a physical practice. But once I was in, I was hooked. Then it started to slowly seep into realizing all these other aspects of yoga that I didn't even know existed. And so that's really what changed my life.
I like how you weave this in and bring it in a really confident business sense. So when I listen to your podcast, or I, hear you, sometimes you do live Facebook videos, that's the sense that I get from you, that there's a real confidence behind what you're offering. So this is something that I hear often from yoga teachers. They want to learn how to build confidence. So can you let's take a step back together. What does it look like when a yoga teacher is lacking confidence? How will they be feeling?
Okay, yeah, let's dive right in, because I think this is a really important topic. A lot of people get called to take their yoga teacher training, and there's something bigger that they're always craving in their life. And quite often, and I'm sure you see it too, we kind of tell ourselves a little bit of a story. And I see this a lot. People will say, oh, I'm taking my teacher training. I mean, I don't want to teach. I don't ever want to be a teacher, and we explain away this whole opportunity to be a leader and be a bigger part of ourselves. And quite often underneath that is this insecurity and self-doubt that happens, right? And I think what goes on for many people is we have such respect and admiration for the teachers that we have in our lives that inspire us. And we have this sort of imposter syndrome that comes up and says, well, I could never be that good, but I'm just going to take this tiny little step forward. And what ends up happening is that, we really, really get called forth to show up in a bigger way, to step into a leadership role. And it really isn't about the asana. We think it's so much about, I see new teachers when they're doing their first class, bless their hearts. They're so courageous to stand up there, but, they're so focused on anatomy and remembering specific dialogue of how to take people in and out of postures. And I just say, cut all that crap out. All I want you to do is focus on loving your students, focus on being there, on being grounded, and letting them know that you care about them and that you really care about their physical being and their mental well-being, and give them the best, juiciest savasana that they could ever have. Because I know, I live in the city, I live downtown Toronto, and I know the people here need it, I think, as most people do around the world. So really focus on your students and loving them as much as you can, and get out of your head and get into your heart, because that's what we need the most, and that's what we need to serve people. successful in their capacity as teachers.
That's amazing for new teachers to hear, and experienced teachers as well. We can still, wind back up and think that we need more training, and we reach out for the next thing to be the expert or to know more and show up more. I like how you brought in the imposter syndrome into that as well.
Yes, and everyone, can we just take a second, Shannon? I know I deal with imposter syndrome every day, and something that we think, oh, well, if I just get through this next hurdle, then I won't have to deal with it anymore. But, your challenges, this is the reality of life when we commit to growth and conscious business, is that your challenges will always up level relative to your ability to handle them. And that's kind of a rich concept. I might have to say that again.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So your challenges will always up level relative to your ability to handle them. So whatever is showing up last week might have felt really challenging, or last year. It's probably a better way to look at it. And maybe teaching your very first class was tough. And I know my first class had one person in it, and that was really hard. And then you master that. And the next thing you know, you're teaching a class with like 60 people in it. And you're like, wow, how do I hold the space and the energy and keep the vibration up with this many people? And so, as you grow, you're always going to be presented that next bigger thing that is going to challenge you. And so please don't ever approach life with this thinking of, oh, if I just get through this one thing, then I'll be okay, and then I won't have to worry and I won't have to grow. You're better off just accepting that the growth is like this great little piece of yourself that gets tucked away into your back pocket. It comes with you for the rest of your life because you're always learning, you're always expanding, and you always have this opportunity to learn new things. And that's the beauty of accepting, growth as part of your journey.
Oh, that's good. Such a good gem. And I like how you brought forward, the imposter syndrome is there for everyone. Like, I am sure it's there for, people who are on TV and people who we think of as quote unquote famous. And I feel it for sure putting out a podcast, every time I go to put out a live video, it feels like a little bit less, but there's always, like you said, a new way to find challenge.
There is. And, I'm glad that you're so open and honest and grounded, Shannon, to talk about this, because, sometimes we look at other people. So you might have your listeners, who tune into you regularly and think, oh, she's perfect. They put you up on a pedestal and they think, oh, she must never be scared of anything in her life. Right. And so I think it's important for us to really be honest and be, transparent and authentic about what it is that we all go through on a daily basis, because every single client that I have goes through this. It looks a little bit different for different people. We all have different flavors of it, but we all deal with it at different points in our life.
Mm-hmm. So since we know that we're all going to feel this imposter syndrome, and we're all going to at times, have that self-doubt, maybe feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to take a yoga teacher training, but I never want to get in front of people and teach. How can we help yoga teachers to practice or gain confidence when they're ready, when they feel like, what, I do want to put myself out there, but, they come up with lots of different reasons why not to.
Yeah, well, I love that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I need a vegetarian version of that quote. But really, there's always confidence comes from taking action. And, I like to joke, and I think it's fun to bring levity to these concepts, but confidence never comes from hiding from something. Confidence comes from taking action. So if you feel like going out and teaching at a really big yoga studio at a peak hour in a busy season is going to be terrifying for you, then what I want you to do is say, okay, what can you do that feels like it is in your comfort zone that would make you feel safe and secure to take that first step forward? And so if that is like one of your best friends, your mom, and a couple stuffed animals in that class, then you create that class and you rock it. And you just keep doing that over and over and over again until you build up that confidence to take that next bigger step. But don't ever use that fear of, oh my gosh, I could never do this, or I could never teach a class like my teacher does, or like so-and-so does. Comparison never brings any good to us. So what I would say is the first step is to just create an environment where you do feel safe and you do feel comfortable, and just keep doing that over and over and over again, and until you feel safe and you build up your confidence. And then you can take that next bigger step to maybe teach 3 people and not your stuffed animals, like or your cat or whatever that happens to be. But as ridiculous as it is, just set yourself up for safety. And the other thing you might want to do, one of these tips that I received, which was really beneficial, was to record myself during class. And so you realize how many ums and ahs you have. You realize how shaky your voice is. And so that can be a great tool as well to really understand what it's like to be in your class and to hear your voice.
Oh, this is good. So the first one being, set this up for a safe step. When I was in my very first yoga teacher training, I was terrified to teach. And I actually asked if I could teach first because I just wanted to get it over with. I knew that it would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And so I taught, when you say record, I recorded myself at home with no one here and then took the class myself, played it back and did the class to see how that was. So that was my very first step. You're just making me think that was my baby step, really.
Oh, that's nice. I love that. And to listen to it, even if there's no one there, is perfectly normal, but it gives you that actual, it helps you get the nerves out. And the other tip I'll say is to be comfortable with silence. I think sometimes when we get nervous, and I've observed this in myself, we tend to ramble. And we think that silence or dead air is a bad thing because I must not know what I'm doing. But really use that silence as a meta skill or a tool, especially in yoga, right? To allow people to listen to their body. So give them a deep, like a deep coaching question or an inquiry into their body. What does this feel like into your left hip? So set them up in a place and then ask them to deep dive into their body and really be confident and comfortable with the silence, because that's where people start to really communicate with their body.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to be comfortable with the silence. I know I've gone through waves in my own yoga teaching when sometimes I say to myself, that's enough talking. Just let them feel that. Be quiet, Shannon.
Absolutely.
I like how you also brought in earlier letting go of the comparison to other peers or mentors, teachers around us. Do you have any other tips on that?
Yes. So as I said earlier, I love this concept when I think of yoga as, or when I connect to that original version of yoga is really connection of ourselves with others and recognizing that. And so whenever we're in a place, that's kind of like a lens that I use to make decisions or to approach situations. And so whenever we're in a place of comparing or saying that person has this and I don't, whenever we're in a place of comparing, we can never feel connection with someone. And so, as a coach, there's always 2 things we do when we're coaching a relationship. It's like raise positivity and find connection, which means find things that you have in common with that person. And so if you have pedestal complex of your teacher who is, say, Bill's your teacher and Bill is amazing because he's been teaching for 30 years, well, let's just be real. You're not going to have the same level of knowledge and experience that Bill is. You're not going to be the same teacher as Bill is, and nor should you ever want to be. And so this is such a beautiful thing about being a yoga teacher is I want people to find their own style, find their own voice. And that comes from being authentic. And not to be judgy, but, thinking of the spectrum of classes and styles that you've been in, we've all been in a class where a yoga teacher, it feels like they're performing, they're staring at themselves in a mirror rather than paying any attention to their students. And it just feels like this is their version of being on stage in a Broadway production, right? I don't want to be in that class. I want to be in a class with a teacher who will pay attention to me, who will give me their love and their attention and hold space and create safety. And so what I want to challenge people to do is to find their own unique style. And we never look outside of ourselves to find that style. We have to look inside. So what is it that is at the core of who you are? What is your superpower that you have? Is it deep inquiring questions? Is it creating connection and community? Is it having wise words and sayings? Like whatever it is that you do that no one else does, really lean into that and use that and let yourself, rather than focusing on how you can be just like Bill or some other teacher, really focus on how you can find and start to peel back those layers to discover your own unique style and trust that that is exactly what your students need.
Well, that's good. It took me quite a long time to figure this out. I feel like I was a bit of a parrot to the yoga teachers that I was studying under for a while. And then I realized, you know what? I love going to different teachers' classes where their personality just comes through. Some are very serious. Some are joking around in class. And I appreciate when it's, like you said, a really authentic thing. I have a question here about, because there's a saying that was in my yoga teacher training. It was said a lot. My teacher's teacher was Yogi Bhajan, so he was saying, fake it till you make it a lot of the time. And I want to get your thoughts on this because I think in the same sense, my students appreciate when I show up in this authentic voice of saying, I don't know, I'm not faking it when it doesn't fit. Is my question clear?
Well, I think when you bring that up, I think the context really isn't about being fake. It's about faking the confidence, right? That's always been my understanding of what's intended by that.
Yeah. So is that something that's useful then? Can we kind of fake confidence?
Well, I think when you dig down deep enough, what they're saying is just show up, even though it's, it comes down to that, again, that concept of confidence comes from taking action. And, there's no such thing as a confidence fairy. And I really, really do wish there was. I wish you could just, put a little prayer under your pillow and hope to wake up the next morning feeling 100% confident and knowledgeable and believing that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. But that is not going to happen. There's no such thing as a confidence fairy. So what you have to do is you have to learn how to navigate doing something while still being a little bit nervous and insecure. So that's kind of how I've always interpreted that saying, is like it's faking that you're an expert at doing something, or fake the confidence, because quite often the first time you do something, you're not going to feel like you are in your zone of genius or that you're an expert, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's good, because I found a lot of comfort in that when I was about to dive into teaching yoga. And you're right. It's like the tiny bites. You're right. It would be nice to have a vegetarian option for that. The tiny bites of the large elephant, like just showing up to teach one class and then another class. That's really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here are kind of the summary of, I jotted a few notes here while you were talking. To take that safe step first, to let go of comparison, and you added a great part to that, to find connection instead of comparison. I love that. To be comfortable with the silence. Mm-hmm. And to ask your students an inquiry question, like to get them, I think that really frees us up, because we don't need to know the answers all by ourselves. We can ask them, how are you feeling?
I love that. Ask them and trust them. Trust that they have intelligence. They will find the right answer, whatever that happens to be. And it might be slightly different answer for every single person who's in your class. And that is okay.
That's so true. I know that people will come to me at the end of the class and they'll be like, wow, you said that quote and this is what it meant to me. And I think, oh, wow, that's a whole new way of looking at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other tip too I'll throw out is just having a beginner's mindset, and to just trust that you're not going to go into that first class or the first new whatever it happens to be that you're doing this week and know how to do everything. And so just trust that that is part of the journey, and take that big picture vision of, there's lots of other things in life that you've done the first time and look what happens years later. It's like second hat to you. It's so easy, but it takes that whole journey of doing it over and over again until we get to that place where we feel comfortable. And so just being compassionate with yourself that this is something new, and the nerves come because quite often people care. They really, really care about doing good and, providing a great experience for other people. And so I think, nervousness and fear can be kind of a beautiful thing, because it shows how conscientious people are and how much they want to do well.
Oh, that's good. What is the relationship of this in terms of self-promotion, marketing ourselves as yoga teachers? So how is the confidence piece connected to that?
Well, I think what happens, again, it kind of comes to this place of us comparing and saying, well, I can't promote myself until I'm an expert yet. And so it's a dangerous way of thinking, right, Shannon? Because it tells us that, it's kind of our saboteur or ego or monkey mind, whatever label you want to give it, that tells us, well, you can't promote today because you're not good enough. And so then we have this fictitious mile marker of when we will be confident. And then what happens is we get there, whether that's 30 classes under your belt or, a certain number of hours of training, whatever that happens to be. And then guess what? We get to that place and we still don't feel confident. And so I think for us, we have to get comfortable promoting ourselves wherever we are, and just, again, being compassionate with ourselves that maybe you don't know everything and maybe you aren't the most qualified or experienced person out there, but wherever you are today has value that you can add to someone else. And there's always going to be students out there for you as a teacher. And so trust that more energy needs to be spent into grounding yourself as a leader, focusing on loving your students and connecting and doing the best that you can, rather than being in your head about keeping a list of all the things that you don't know or that you can't do yet, right? It's just such simple philosophy, but get out of your head, get into your heart, and, just focus on doing the best as to where you are today. Because self-promotion, as I'm sure you'll agree, is a muscle that we need to build.
Mm-hmm. It sure is.
Yeah.
Is there any one technique that you kind of go to, or is there anything that you can offer the teachers today to really help them, like, okay, let's conquer this fear, or let's build a bit of confidence, or let's tackle that limiting belief?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I would say one is asking permission. So, you and I have talked in the past about retreats. I love retreats. I love running them, and I love helping other people learn how to run retreats. And so quite often self-promotion comes up a lot in that. So promoting a yoga class is challenging, but a bigger ticket item like that can be extra challenging. And so one of the tips I give to people is a meta skill called asking permission. So let's say you finish teaching a class and there's someone who, has told you that they feel really burnt out, or whatever that trigger is that makes you think, oh, this would be a perfect person to come away with me this weekend on a retreat. So instead of finding that awkward opening in the conversation, you can just ask permission and say, hey, Mary, can I tell you, sounds like you really need a break, or you're really stressed out at work, or you've got a lot going on with, this certain relationship in your life. I have a really amazing retreat coming up. Can I tell you about it? And so whether it's a retreat, whether it's a class, a workshop, whatever it is that you're doing, you're actually taking a second to connect with that person, ask them permission. Can I tell you about this? Or can I give you your business card? Or can I send you an email with details about this? And so in that simple moment, what you're doing is you're presencing that you're about to tell them details about yourself or an offering, and you're asking them if that's okay. And that simple tool can be really kind of like training wheels, right? When we're building up this muscle of self-promotion. And it just is bridge language to help us feel comfortable about telling someone what we have going on.
Right. Well, that makes so much sense. So if someone's coming up to you or you're in a conversation with a group of friends and someone's talking about the back pain that they have, you might say, can I tell you about this back care class that I run weekly?
Beautiful. Same thing with exchanging business cards, right? So if you have someone there, or you're at a networking event, it's like, would it be all right if we exchanged contact information or business cards or whatever that happens to be? And so in that moment, you are just being really conscious and transparent with them, and they have the opportunity to say yes or no. And a lot of times people get turned off by people who self-promote, but it's not that they're self-promoting. It's because they're doing it in an inauthentic way. They're doing it in a pushy, aggressive way. And then we feel that, right? I mean, we're all about energy, right? As yoga lovers. So we push back on that, not because of what they're saying, but because of how they're showing up. We feel that aggression, that dominant, like, male energy, that yangness that is really kind of a turnoff to us. And so we shut down. But if you are just being purely conscious, because someone is already going to feel that that's going on anyways, and that just kind of takes that negativity out of it completely.
Oh, that's so good. And did you say there's another one? You had two in mind?
Yeah, so asking permission is a great meta skill, and again, that can be applied to anything. The other thing I was going to suggest for your listeners is stay connected to your big why, and this is your purpose, your dharma, whatever it is in life that you have that you are meant to do. And when you're in that moment, quite often we get in our head and we think, oh my God, I can't do this. And we have the laundry list of reasons why, and what are people going to think of us? And we get so in our head. And in those moments, I always say, get out of your head and get into your heart. Stay connected to that other person. You have something that you need to help them with, and stay connected to that. Because really, at the end of the day, your self-promotion isn't about you. It's about putting yourself out there so that you can share your gifts or share your purpose or heal others or whatever your purpose happens to be. And so if you can focus on the people that you need to help, to serve, to connect with, and what it is that they need, that helps to take you out of your own monkey mind as to all the reasons why you don't want to do something.
Oh, this is good. And I know so many yoga teachers that I see them go through this shift. So they'll be offering something, and when they really click into what is their niche and their offering, then their language changes, and they're sharing and telling me about, like, I'm helping this person so much. And then the more they share that, the more that is their message. Like, I have something really amazing to offer, and look at how I've helped this person be more mobile or be more, relaxed, or whatever it is that they're offering them.
Yeah, I think, and I love that. Isn't that such a great moment when people really, really figure out their niche?
Yes.
It is such an aha moment, and the heavens part, and there's this great sound that happens, from the skies. But we are always trying so hard to find our niche in the beginning, and you have to sort of take a leap and hope that it's right. But often the only way to really get clarity on that is to go out there and try it, and then we get confirmation. Maybe it was right, and maybe it was a little bit, off center from what we originally thought. Either way, we get there. Again, it's the same thing as the confidence, right? It doesn't just fall out of the sky. We have to take action and dive in and roll up our sleeves to really get clarity on that.
Oh, I like that you just gave that it can be a total pivot. I used to think my niche was hot flow yoga, and that is so far from what I teach now. It is very far from. Yoga for pelvic health is very different from hot flow.
Oh, is that where you are now? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I teach specifically yoga for pelvic health, and I just love it. I can't, it's really my heart work right now. But I'm also not attached to that it wouldn't change again.
Yes, yeah, that's beautiful, beautiful, Shannon. It's so true, because as we evolve and we grow and we build new relationships, that it's quite natural and normal for it to change. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you work one-on-one with people, is that correct?
I do, yes.
So tell us, if listeners are interested in working with you, tell us the various ways that you work with people.
Sure. So I do one-on-one coaching. So I sort of label that as business coaching. So it's for people who are setting up a new business during their first few years of business. And I have that as an offering. I also run group masterminds that people might be interested in. And that's just a really collaborative environment where people get to lean in and learn in a group environment from what they have going on, and also observe other people going through similar things, which is nice. And then I have online programs as well. So as you mentioned earlier, my podcast. So my podcast is called Conscious Business. So if anybody wants to check that out, they can find that on thecorporateyogi.com. And then the other area in terms of online programs, I have a retreat leader training program, and there is a free offering that is really cool. If anybody's kind of curious about some point maybe getting into retreats, they can find a free version of that course on a different website, and that's retreatyou.co. So REATU.co.
Okay. We'll put the links for both of those in the show notes for sure, so people can connect with you there.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then what is your favorite social media platform right now?
Oh, I'm going to have to say Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
It's
too.
the easiest. It's, I do love Instagram. It's a close second, but I would say most of my time is spent on Facebook for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll put a link to the Corporate Yogi on Facebook as well in our show notes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I always feel like when I go to listen to your podcast, it's so helpful on a day where I just kind of need a cheerleader behind me. Like, you got this, Shannon, go do your thing. So thank you for offering that. I'm sure some of our listeners will be anxious to check that out.
Oh, you're so welcome. And right back at you. I know how much work it is to produce a regular podcast. So thank you for, producing this podcast and sharing your message and really giving yoga teachers a resource and a medium to get more confident in what they do and to have a community, because, being a yoga teacher is, sometimes it's not the highest paid job that we could ever do, but it is so fulfilling, and it can be isolating because we don't have that community of people. So I think what you're doing as a service is so needed, and it's such a beautiful gift. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Julie. Well-connected yoga teachers, how is that? I would love to hear from you. If you'd like to continue this conversation, let's do that in our Facebook group or via email, or you can send me a voicemail. Also, what's great is if you leave comments on our website. What I really like then is you can get our guests commenting back and letting you know their thoughts and having a conversation in there. So some key takeaways for me when I was listening to Julie, I really liked how she said, when you're doing something new, it takes extra courage and energy. And she talked about planning for that quote unquote growth hangover that she refers to this as. I also love how Julie said that everyone has imposter syndrome and that it shows up differently. So I see examples of this all the time when I'm working for yoga teachers. I see yoga teachers really hesitating around making decisions around their website or reaching out and feeling like they need to take more yoga teacher training before they can be ready, or feeling not comfortable about marketing. So all kinds of things pop up here. I do need to give a huge shout out of thanks right now, just because my mind is triggered thinking about my VA, Samantha Scott, who is working on all of my websites now. I've passed that all over to her. I used to actually help yoga teachers to build websites. And now when yoga teachers approach me, I say, you know what? I'm really great with all of the planning that goes up to building the website. And then that's Samantha's superpower, is designing a website and putting all of the information on there. She even helps a little bit with copy. I've even passed pages over to her and said, can you clean this up? This is a mess for me to do. And I think she's brilliant at it. If you're wanting to connect with Samantha as a VA or as a website designer, her website is techcrazyva.com, and I'll put a link to that in our show notes. While I'm saying thanks, I have to also acknowledge Rob, who does all of the editing of the podcast. Rob, thank you so much for being here from day one until now. I know that you have made some amazing suggestions that have really improved the podcast. Also, thank you to Laura, who this week I was like, Laura, I am just behind on things, and the show notes to you, like the audio to you, is going to be a little bit late. She was like, that's okay. I'll do some more research, and she's on it. So huge shout out to the entire Connected Yoga Teacher team. Also, thank you to you, the listener. You guys, your emails and your notes and your messages really make me get very excited about finding future guests. I am looking forward to some episodes that are coming up, offering some amazing things. So thank you for tuning in each and every week. Take care, Connected Yoga Teachers. Stay connected to self, to your practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up.